the transformative rights sounds really valuable. Like, like for example, something like Harry Potter has so much fan fiction that's generated off of it that people love just to like extend the characters and extend the world. I can see that being, tremendously valuable. And yeah, you can make a video out of fictional worlds and stuff. So
yeah, like with Harry Potter, example, just you can imagine just how much you can expand the Harry Potter universe using AI. You want to make sure you build a model that expands the monetization potential of Harry Potter versus restricting the monetization potential. So that's what we're trying to build, and then bringing along rights holders and AI companies, or building these things ourselves to sort of just create this future opportunity.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Founders Anonymous podcast. I'm Raj Suri, co-founder of Lima and Tribe. And today we have Trip Adler, founder and CEO of createdbyhumans.ai. Imad can't make it today. He has a flight that he's taking, but he'll be on next time. Welcome, Trip. Glad to have you on.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Very excited about your new company. You're a longtime founder, right? When was the first time you started founding companies?
Let's see. I started my first company when I was about 21 years old. I was a senior at Harvard. That was around 2006. We did Y Combinator, class of 06. That was a different era back in Cambridge. Built that company up to a pretty big company over 17 years, and now I'm on to my second company.
Yeah. You and I probably started around the same time then, because I started my first company around early 2007, around when I was 21 as well. So it's same vintage, I guess. Yeah,
it's been a good era for startups.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
It's probably gonna get better too.
Yeah, it's been great, and it's crazy to see how the ecosystem has exploded, right? I mean, I thought it was big back then, but it's just like 1,000 times bigger now.
Yeah, no, it's really exploded, and I think it's going to just continue. It seems to me like doing startups is just going to be the new path for a lot of people, and there's enough infrastructure in place to support a lot of startups. So, yeah, I think it's just it's still early days of the big startup wave that we're on.
Yeah, I saw something the other day. I think it was a tweet that said that Stanford kids coming out of school now find it easier to get into Y Combinator than they do to get an internship at a company. Do you believe that?
Yeah, then I saw, I think Jared, the partner there, is my former co-founder. He responded explaining that. I guess it's if you're dropping out of school to start a company, that's a very good signal compared to looking for an internship. So I think it's just kind of like those people who are willing to drop out of school to start a company. That's a great signal for YC, and those folks do get a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, YC indexes towards the top schools as well. Like, there's no doubt about that, right? So it's like if you're going to like Stanford, MIT, or anything like that, then you have a much higher chance of getting into YC. So yeah, those people have that option. Not everyone does, but those people do, and Stanford also acts as a filter. So, but yeah, tell us about your new company, Created by Humans. So it's a big topic, and very timely.
Yeah, so Created by Humans is working to solve copyright in the AI era. It's a big topic. It's a really complex topic, and we are trying to do our part in solving it through a startup solution and by getting a marketplace going for AI rights. We believe that if rather than having these copyright battles all just play out in court, if we could actually get build a licensing model where creators can proactively license their works, and AI companies can come and agree to terms, and we can kind of connect these two through mutual agreement. We think that's just a better approach here than through lawsuits. Our ambition is to do this for all kinds of copyrighted content. We want to be the connective tissue that connects copyrighted content with AI, but we're starting specifically with books. Books have been very central to this whole situation, and there's a lot of tricky things to figure out with books. So our goal is to solve this with books, and then we're going to expand other types of content from there.
Yeah, and a very important topic. I think very much unresolved to this point. Now, there was a big court decision, right, a few weeks ago. I was thinking of you when I read this court decision.
Well, there are a couple that came out. There's the one about Anthropic using books and the one about Meta using books.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are just there are dozens of these types of lawsuits, and I think that these are just two of the many more to come. So I think it's still early days, and I think all these are going to get appealed too. So I think the legal process here is going to take a long time to play out before there's any resolution. But there's some preliminary, or there's some judgments on those two situations, which give some preliminary input on where this is all going to go. I mean, the way I read the outcomes, it was pretty. It was pretty unclear where this is all going to go still. There was this kind of a bit of consensus that training and just training is fair use. But there's other questions about questions about how you get the books. So for example, in the Anthropic case, they're saying you can't pirate books, so there needs to be penalties for that. In the Meta case, there's this question of over time, will there be market dilution if these AI companies are training on books and replicating the ideas outside of books? Because if there is market dilution, that's going to be a kind of a signal that it is copyright infringement. But basically, it's really still kind of it's still playing out. I mean, these are two early judgments, and I think that there's just going to be we're going to learn a lot more as there's more of these cases over the coming years.
Yeah, I saw a lot of pro AI people celebrating the Anthropic one, right? Saying that, hey, it means that, AI folks won't be held liable for just training on whatever they want. But that's not really the case. It's kind of what you're describing. There's,
I think it's more nuanced than that. I think the big one there is that they said that you can't pirate the books, and from what I read, Anthropic pirated 7 million books, which is a lot of books. Mm-hmm. So there will most likely be a judgment that Anthropic's going to have to pay for each of those books, and that could be pretty big numbers. So yeah, I think people are celebrating that maybe training and just training by itself is fair use, but all of their actions around the whole experience of training really matter too. And I think also eventually what you're going to do with the content and how you monetize it also is going to matter. So I just really I think people were taking kind of binary positions of this, but I think it's still just very early and it's still unclear where it's all going to go.
Got it. What's your progress so far in terms of how many you're building a two-sided marketplace, right? In some ways, right? You're building the AI side and the book side. What's your progress in building this market?
Yeah, so we started on the supply side. We figured we need to get some content available for license, and we went to the book publishing industry. They quickly the publishers redirected us to the authors, because the situation there is that since all these publishing contracts for the last many decades have never mentioned AI rights, it basically means that the authors are the ones who still own their AI rights. So in order to unlock these AI rights, you have to actually get authors involved, and that's why these lawsuits are actually by authors, because it has to be the actual rights holder that files the lawsuit. So we built it as a direct author product. We partnered with the Authors Guild, and we allow authors to sign up and claim their books, select their licensing options, and license their books. And we've gotten quite good traction. We've got a lot of really big names, and a lot of authors, a whole diverse group of authors. So we've got a nice little library available for license. And then we are in conversations with AI companies. We've signed some deals. We've got many more in the works. There's a lot going on, so we're gonna have more to announce soon. But I think we're still building this marketplace. It's a really complicated marketplace to solve with a lot of kind of nuanced issues on all parts of it. But we're making good progress.
Sounds good, man. And I can see on your website, some are public, right? So Walter Isaacson with the Steve Jobs books, James Patterson, these are some of the authors. You presumably you've signed, right?
Yeah, and Doug Preston and Susan Orlin and Sylvia Day. Those are just some of the ones we put up on our homepage to kind of just to sort of it's kind of showcase some of the folks we have. But there's a lot more, and the library is growing every day. We hope over time to have a growing library of content where authors are willing to share to license their books, as opposed to just filing lawsuits about them. We're trying to flip this to getting people to share their books for license versus this taking legal action. And I think we're making good progress. When we started this, the author community was very divided. Some people just didn't want anything to do with AI. Some people were kind of on the fence. Some people were enthusiastic. We're kind of starting with the enthusiastic ones, and then we're going to expand from there.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. This sounds like very much like the music industry going, and then eventually ending up at Spotify, right? It was all lawsuits in the 2000s and then ended up with the legal path to getting to monetizing their streaming rights, right? Which people still complain about, but everyone seems to be it's a relatively stable place, right? Where Spotify, is that a good analogy?
Yeah, I think it's a good analogy because with with Spotify, there was the Napster era. There was a lot of legal questions about that, lawsuits, and Spotify solved it by just building a really good product that got the labels and got the artists on board, and got consumers on board, and bringing those two together. And I mean that's what we're trying to do is build a legitimate model that everyone is on board for. So yeah, I think Spotify is a good analogy. We're trying to be like the Spotify of content of the AI era.
Yeah. Maybe while you're doing that, you can also build on a consumer product, to consume the book so you can compete with Audible or something, or some other types of some other type of consumer.
We're going to be building all sorts of stuff. I mean, we've built a licensing product. We've built an infringement detection system so we can monitor the LLMs to see which books people have and make that information available to authors. And we are actively thinking about building our own consumer products. I mean, there's so many ideas, and so one of our ideas is like just become a customer of our own marketplace basically and start building consumer products. So we're building a lot as a company, and we've got some good stuff in the works.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. So you mentioned that this idea could extend to other segments and industries. It kind of makes sense, right? Like the movie industry has had a lot of controversy over AI rights. Obviously music itself has had a kind of. Which industries do you see as like ripe for this type of disruption as well as books?
I think it's all human generated works and all copyrighted works. That's videos, music, art, podcasts. I mean, really everything. And we eventually want to work with all kinds of industries, all kinds of content, and be the connective tissue between all copyrighted works and AI. When we started this, I thought we were going to expand pretty quickly, but as we got into books, I just realized there's just so much to solve with books. I think we're in a stronger position, really kind of, succeeding in that one vertical, solving the problem, and then expanding from there. So we're laser focused on books, but once we make some progress there, we're going to expand and do this for all kinds of content.
What do you think that would look like? So let's, right now a lot of content is created on TikTok and YouTube, so there's a lot of like self-created content, even tweets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think, say if you're a prolific social media influencer on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok, do you think that like you start getting paid per volume of content? Something like that? Like, what would the numbers look like? I'm just curious, what do you think this would end up being in terms of like, in the range, of course, dollars and cents? Like you produce 1,000 tweets, do you get $5 or something, like, for your AI rights?
I mean, I have no idea what the numbers are going to be. I mean, the market prices here are just, it's all over the place. I mean, some people believe that, creators should not get paid anything for this. Some people believe it's like, this should be, data should be the most valuable resource in the world. We think the answer is somewhere in between, and the market's going to decide. So how much a particular Twitter user gets, I just don't know. I mean, I think it really also just depends on what exactly type of content we're talking about. So for something like Twitter, I think that it's really, the Twitter is the only company trading on that data, and there isn't really a way for other companies to access it. I think, from what I could tell, I think Elon's been cracking down on others using that data. So I mean, we could potentially have a way that an individual Twitter user can export their tweets and then monetize those in other platforms. There's things like that we could do. We just haven't gotten there yet, as we're still very focused on books at the moment.
Yeah. I'm just curious about the thoughts of on how the industry is going to evolve. On Twitter, they have an API actually, which we use at Tribe, and you're able to suck in any data you want from that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. And so it's a very expensive API, but you can do it. So maybe that's where other companies can train, but maybe there's a rights issue, like for like a big company like OpenAI not being able to train. That there could, I mean, at that scale, you're going to be worried about lawsuits, right? So, so I think I don't know what the rights are, but
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to look at the rights, man, because our general attitude is we want to make sure that all rights holders are signed off. And since these AI rights have often been poorly defined, we want to get the actual humans who own the rights behind it too. So we could potentially, we'll look at it and try to understand the rights of the actual Twitter user versus Twitter and try to sort that out. But yeah, as I said, we just haven't gone down that path yet.
Yeah. I was talking to a bunch of other founders about X is now part of XAI, right? And it seems like the main value of Twitter now is to train their AI, right? Like feels like that has become the main thing, right? It's not like advertising anymore or anything like that. Do you see that? I mean, the quality of that data doesn't seem very valuable. Like, how do you look at the differential quality of data, right? Like books seem very valuable. It's very structured, right? Especially like nonfiction books have a lot of useful things, but even fiction books can teach AI LLMs how to think or how to like write. But Twitter stuff just seems like a bunch of random crap. To be honest, there's probably a few good like news articles. It's useful for real-time stuff, but LLMs don't really care about real-time stuff as much. Like, how do you look at this differential quality of like videos versus tweets versus books? Retraining LLMs.
I mean, yeah, it's hard for us to say. I mean, we're just trying to build the marketplace, and then we're going to try to get the best market rates for all this type of data. And I think if I came back on the show in a few years, I'd have much more of a question, much more of an answer to that question by being further along. But yeah, our point of view is that like longer form content that's highly edited, things like books should have a premium value. It's there's a lot of people go into creating a book, and the long form aspect, the structured aspect, really increases the value. And the other thing is we're not just doing this just for training. So we've created 3 categories of AI rights. The first is training. The second we call reference rights, which is using content for RAG. That's actually where we've seen a lot of interest in, is getting books for RAG. And then the third is what we call transformative rights, which is taking a piece of copyright work and transforming it into something new using AI. So, for example, this could be taking a book and talking to the book, or talking to a character of the book, or converting the book into a video, or personalizing the book. There's all sorts of things you can do with transforming a piece of copyrighted content into something new. So that's another aspect of our marketplace. So we have these 3 categories of rights, and they all work kind of differently. And I think for something like books, like something like transformative rights are a really good fit. Well, for Twitter, I think transformative rights wouldn't make nearly as much sense. So I think that there's all sorts of potential for books and for other kinds of content, just depending on the type of content, the type of licensing. We're just trying to build sort of the plumbing to enable all this to happen. Because right now it's like, because it's so complicated and it's not defined, people are just pirating things. But we think that if we make this, if we kind of define clear rules and make it really easy to get the data you need, that's how we kind of solve this problem in the long run.
Yeah. That's fascinating. I had no idea about those different types of rights. The transformative rights sounds really valuable. It's like, like for example, something like Harry Potter has so much fan fiction that's generated off of it that people love, just to like extend the characters and extend the world. I can see that being, tremendously valuable. And yeah, you can make a video out of fictional worlds and stuff. So, that's very exciting.
Yeah, like with Harry Potter, as an example, you can imagine just how much you can expand the Harry Potter universe using AI. And you just need to build, you want to make sure you build a model that expands the monetization potential of Harry Potter versus restricting the monetization potential. So that's what we're trying to build, and then bringing along rights holders and AI companies, or building these things ourselves to sort of just create this future opportunity.
Oh yeah. You should definitely build it. There's going to be if you do, getting the rights is like probably most of the work. The actual the building part. I mean, that's probably the more fun part for sure.
We're definitely going to start building our own consumer apps. And like you just said, the hardest part was clearing the rights. And that's kind of what we've done in this first year of the company, is kind of like sorted that piece out. But now that that's done, now it's like lots of opportunity for partners to build, or for us to build, using all this data we have.
Yeah. Especially as a Silicon Valley founder, like we all know how to build stuff, but like very hard to negotiate rights. So like at least I see that as a big schlep, right? And you've kind of done that part already. So, and then the other right, the middle one, the RAG, like using books for RAG. How does that work? Maybe you could tell some of our audience probably doesn't understand how that works.
Yeah, when you hear like about let's say OpenAI doing a lot of these media deals, they're I can't comment how all the deals work, but often they're what they call a display deal. It's about like having the content show up in an output and then linking to the source of that content. So a lot of these news deals you hear, like news companies and AI companies, those are what they call display deals or RAG deals. And that means the content was never used for training; it was just used for like pulling the content for RAG in real time if it needs the information.
Hmm.
So we're finding that there's quite a bit of interest in RAG deals for books. So if somebody asks a question, the answer to the question is on page 224 of a book. It can kind of pull up the answer from that page and say, here's the answer and here's the book where it came from. There's been quite a bit of interest in that kind of deal.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Okay, I get it now. And what do you think about like how actual like book writing will go from now on? Like, do you think there'll be a lot more books created now with AI? It feels like it's much less friction now to write a book. I mean, AI can write a book now in seconds, but like, do you think that will mean more people writing, or do you think the people won't because like the value of books will go down? It's interesting that Spotify, like, in today's world, we're talking about Spotify. There's tons more music produced now than there was 10 years ago. I found that fascinating. It's like some crazy number of like tens of thousands of pieces of new music are released every week. Do you think that will happen to books as well?
Yeah, well, this is one of those things where there's like more there's infinitely more reasons, and it's even more easy to write books, but there's also lots of few reasons to write books because of people reading AI output. So it's like, who knows what's going to happen? It's going to be it's like it's a new world we're entering. But I would say is like, we want to create a world that incentivizes people to keep writing books. What we're concerned about is if the business model of publishing goes away and people are just getting all the information they need from AI outputs, there isn't a business model incentivizing authors to write books. And we think that's just not a good world to live in, right? We want to be the company that champions human creative work and champions the business model for that, so we can keep creating great things by humans forever, right? And if we get into a world where the world of AI and the world of human creation gets too siloed, that's not going to be a good world. So we're trying to bring these two worlds together. Yeah, I mean, we're thinking about like also like if you look at a book, in the future, like parts of the book could be written by a human, parts could be written by AI. Like do humans do they prefer to read something written by a human or prefer AI? We're trying to like answer those kinds of questions and then sort it out so that people do get more comfortable with a book that's possibly written partially by AI. Those kinds of things we're figuring out, and I mean these are big questions without clear answers, but we're positioning the company in the space to try to like solve this and just bring everyone along and make sure that humans keep writing books in this new world.
Yeah, totally. I think that makes sense. The interesting point, I'm going back to my last point about music. AI can now make a song very easily too, but there's no AI song that has become popular, right? Like there's this idea of like the AI stuff all becomes kind of generic, whereas the music that pervades our consciousness, it tends to be fresh and new and deeply human, um, and there's just something stale about AI, AI generated content. I think the same might be true for writing as well, especially fiction writing. Nonfiction often needs to be fresh to take off. They need to have a differential point of view, right? So it's hard to do that with AI, but AI can help with like some, a lot of times they say like a book could have been a blog post, right? So like you have these like a few fresh ideas, and then AI can help expand on that maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's the kind of stuff we want to do, right? It's like if you're reading a book, maybe you want to go through part of it faster, or maybe AI can help summarize that as you're reading it. Or maybe a part of it you want to go deeper and AI can help expand on that. Like these are the kinds of things that we want to enable with books. But yeah, I mean, I think that if somebody, there are people who've created 100% AI generated books, and from what I can tell, no one really wants to read them. But I could imagine though, where somebody writes a book that's mostly written by a human that has some pages or some paragraphs written by AI, and I could see that still being a best-selling book.
Yeah.
So I think that there's going to be like a process of sort of like baby stepping to have more AI content within books. And, maybe in the long term, it'll get to the point where books are fully written by AI, maybe with still some human involvement. I mean, I don't know how it's all going to play out, but we just want to like, build the plumbing, build the business model, and, just build the ability for this to be figured out, because it's a really complicated thing. And I think everyone wants some clarity for how it's going to work.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think, yeah, I mean, I'm sure writers are using AI already, especially when they hit like a stumbling block, right? They need just some ideation or some new thoughts. I use AI a lot just for that purpose these days, just like brainstorming. Sometimes you don't have anyone to brainstorm with, so you just brainstorm with AI, right? Um, and so for sure there's a good use case there, because you're basically talking to like, the entire history of human knowledge, right? In one go, and that's super super valuable. So
I think humans and AI are already kind of like we're already kind of merging quite a bit, right? I mean, it feels like we're yeah, like a lot of like we're interacting with AI so much that we're already sort of like sort of merging, and AI is having a big influence on us, so we're having a big influence on AI, and I think that's sort of where the world's going now.
yeah, that's a great perception. Yeah, we're all becoming cyborgs slowly.
That's it's already
Yeah,
happening. Yep.
it's happening. Yeah, it's definitely happening. And they're trying to make it even easier, right? They're trying to come up with a new hardware to make it like, put the AI, so there's AI is so even closer to you. It's just like on your body, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's the glasses and pins and things like that. So, yeah, I think that for some use cases it makes a lot of sense. Um, and so, Trip, how old is the company?
A little more than a year old.
A little more than a year old. Okay, so you're still getting started, still in the early phases. And have you announced any public funding? Anything publicly? Have you announced anything publicly at all, apart from the website?
Yeah, we've raised about 11 million. We yeah, we raised from like Floodgate and Giant Ventures and Gary Tan and Walter Isaacson. I mean, there's a whole list of investors on our website. Yeah, just kind of enough money to get started, get off the ground. Probably raise a proper Series A at some point, but we're in no rush. I mean, we've got a good cash balance for now, and we've got the size of the team we need to kind of get to the next step. So, but yeah, we've announced funding. We do have a product that's live where authors can sign up to claim and license their AI rights. And we've got some more stuff in the works that's be coming out soon.
That's good. And how is it like starting a company? Nothing. This is your second company after Scribd?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So how's the journey this time for you personally? Like you have kids now. You're a different person. You're enjoying it more, or is it just as stressful as the first time?
I think I'm enjoying it more, and it's less stressful. I mean, it's been really just quick to get a company off the ground. In terms of just um, I mean, just like it's just a different era. Part is I have more experience, and it's also probably just a different era. So in terms of being a different era, I mean, when we raised for our first 40K at Scribd, we had to negotiate a term sheet, and it took months, right? Now, when you want to raise 40K, you have a quick conversation. Someone says, okay, I'm in. You send them a safe, they send you a wire, and it's done within a matter of minutes, right? So just like the concept of safes, like really speeds up getting things started. And then just all these tools that you can use to sort of onboard your team, just get everybody working together really quickly. So it's a really different era. In terms, it's a lot easier to get a company started, just given the era. And then also, yeah, I think I just have a lot more experience, and that makes it that makes things go faster. I mean, I think we're getting a lot of things right with this company from day one that took me 17 years to figure out at the last company. So I think we're just, able to get, really good momentum really quickly, which is nice. I mean, there's certainly things that are challenging, but I guess I don't find them as stressful as I did the first time around. Because the first time around you have a challenge and you're thinking like, oh gosh, is this the end of the company? But then you learn that you always figure out some solution or something comes along that kind of unsticks you to get to the next phase. So now when we hit challenges, I'm kind of like I'm sort of just pretty comfortable at navigating them and knowing how to approach these challenges. So I mean, yeah, the short answer is just it's been great to start a new company, and yeah, it's a good start of the journey. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah. So, and you didn't take much time off between Scribd and this company, is that right? Like only a few months?
Just a few months. Yeah, felt really excited to do this. The market up there's just such a big opportunity, and there was so much conflict. And I knew a lot of the people in the book industry and the AI industry who are in lawsuits with each other. I'm just like, well, I just want to solve this problem. So I just started talking to folks, and it happened pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah. Is there a reason like you were really? I mean, you sound like you knew the book industry well. Is that from work at Scribd, or is this something else that you had connections there?
It's from Scribd. I mean, at Scribd, I spent 10 years pioneering the subscription model for books, and it was very similar in that you have there's a lot of resistance to the model at first. Then you get kind of a few early adopter publishers on, and then you get consumers, and you kind of get the flywheel going. And this is kind of similar. We're pioneering the AI licensing model for books. So I think the AI licensing model for books is a lot more challenging and more complicated. This is there's just so much complexity in the situation, but that just makes it fun and interesting. But yeah, I just had a really good experience pioneering the subscription model, and then also I had a lot of experience with copyright too, with like navigating the DMCA, because we had people uploading content to Scribd and having to deal with takedowns, building a copyright filter, all those kinds of things. So yeah, I just had a lot of good experience, good relationships to get me ready to work on solving this problem.
Yeah. And I notice, one thing you say often is like, we're still very early, we're a year in, there's a long way to go. I have the same attitude. My last company, I was running for 15 years. So I always have the same attitude, like, oh yeah, this is very early still, a year in. But then there's another attitude you can see from founders, like first time founders, they're like, how quickly can I get to like some crazy ARR number, within 6 months or something. Like that's a very common thing. Y Combinator is like advertising companies that get to, X million ARR within a few months. I look at that as a little bit different, right? Like those are, they're playing a very different game in some ways. What are your thoughts on that? Because I worry about people who like try to grow too fast, and then the metrics are just a mirage. The people, it doesn't stick around. That happens a lot with AI companies, I think.
Yeah, we're definitely not being that way. I mean, we actually we have deals that would get our ARR up quite a bit faster. We're actively turning them away because we don't think that they are the right standards that we're setting for authors. So we're actually really taking our time and trying to get the model right. And I think fortunately we have investors who are patient and willing to take that long-term perspective. I think if you're a first-time founder, you kind of have to prove the numbers to get more funding. But if you have more patient investors, you could take your time, and you have more leeway there. It's interesting. I'm a partner at a Rebel fund where we we invest in YC companies, and we just had this discussion at a recent session. Was like, how much does early traction correlate with long-term success? And the founder of Rebel Fund, Jared Heyman, he did an analysis of this, and he found that there was no correlation between traction at demo day and long-term success.
Wow.
And that's just based on like 10 years of data. So that's a data point. So at the same time, though, I mean, early traction is good. I wouldn't say early traction is a bad thing. It's a good thing. But yeah, from what I can tell, it's not the most important signal. It's more important to set yourself up to get long-term traction and that long-term hockey stick growth.
Yeah, I mean, that's my view as well. I that's why sometimes I look at some of these YC companies and stuff like touting their early growth. It kind of worries me a little bit. But it's good to know there's no correlation. Doesn't mean there's negative correlation, because that could also be the case. Right?
Yeah, there was a negative correlation. I mean, the early numbers, I'd say early numbers is it's better than not, but it's just, could very easily be a false signal. So I wouldn't in evaluating a company, that should not be one of the top criteria.
Yeah. And we've all been there as first-time founders, like, desperate to get, the first funding, desperate to get, some validation. If we could get it, and now with the AI world, you could maybe get some early, revenue and stuff, and maybe your peers are getting it, so you feel pressure that you also need to get, that early revenue as well. But, I think maybe both of our messages to founders might be, you don't need to always think of it that way, right? You could set up a company for the long term as well. I think one way I recommend people do is, when they're doing vesting agreements, even do it for longer term, like 10-year vesting agreements, because that's typically how the journey goes. It's not like, doesn't need to be, 4 years is actually a pretty short period of time.
Yeah, we did 5 years. It's not a lot longer than 4, but we just wanted to set the tone that this is not your normal startup. We want people to be in this for the longer term. I mean, I do like a lot of things about 10 years because yeah, I mean, 10 years is kind of like the amount of time it takes to really achieve something with a startup. So I do like 10 years, but yeah, we did 5.
Yeah. No, I've done 10 years and it works well. I think people, the good part about it is that like it sets people up for long-term thinking from the very beginning. So it's hard to like think about 5 years is better than 4 still. And I would just encourage all founders to think about the company arc as long a period of time as possible. Because if you do that, it also reduces like, the stress you get from like this peer pressure and stuff like, oh, the other companies that, already 3 million ARR and I'm only at 1 or whatever it is, and I think you need to think about things in the longer term. These things can change very quickly, over time, and as long as you build up the right foundation.
Yeah, well, I think that's also from this being in the whole like YC circle. I mean, there's just so many good startups all around you, and everyone's got different trajectories. So there's kind of competition. But yeah, I remember when we did YC back in '06. The variation of like who was hot just changed so quickly. It was like 1 month there's this one company that was going to be the best company, and then 2 months later it was a different company, and then 2 months later it was another company, and then like 5 years later it had like no correlation to what happened at YC. So yeah, I think that's right to say long-term focused. The other thing about being long-term focused though is you have to have investors who are on board for that sort of approach. I do see quite a bit of variation in investors. Some investors just want like they're really looking for the short-term numbers, and some investors are just looking for the right long-term opportunity. And I think if you want to be long-term focused, it's important to get that in alignment with your investors or with everyone, your employees, your investors. Everyone should understand like the long-term goal of the company. But if you get that right, I think that could be a very, very good thing for a company.
Totally. Yeah. Very important to align with your investors on what you see as the trajectory of the company, and make sure they know what they're signing up for. So there's no misalignment down the line. So rapid fire questions. What's the worst pitch you've ever made to an investor? Do you remember that?
I don't know exactly what the worst pitch was, but I'll tell you one pitch story. When we first applied to Y Combinator, we pitched Paul Graham on the idea for Uber, and he told us it was a terrible idea. And to be fair, we were pitching this back in 2006 before the iPhone even existed, so it couldn't really be done then. So PG was right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know this, but I co-founded Zimride, which turned out to be Lyft in 2007. That was my first company. So not too far afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. You did it in 2007. So we pitched that to PG in 2006. So we're thinking about that idea at the same time.
Yeah, same time. I mean, and it turned out the iPhone was the key thing. So actually Zimride, struggled for 5 years, before it actually pivoted into the company that became Lyft. So it was a big pivot 5 years down the line. So that just shows also how long it takes to make these things
example.
Work.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. What's a licensing clause that you actually want AI engineers to read?
Well, when we do these deals, we're getting rights holders to proactively license their content, which is a positive thing. But rights holders also want restrictions in place for what can and can't be done with the content. So we'd like AI developers to pay attention to these restrictions, right? And if they're to get the quality data directly from the source, it also requires just paying attention to the restrictions and making sure those are followed.
What's one author request that surprised you?
Well, one author was saying he had a book series where he killed off one of his characters, and he thought it'd be pretty cool to bring that character back to life using AI. So that's something that we're thinking about helping him with. But it's cool to see authors being forward-looking in that way about AI.
One thing you think legacy publishers completely miss?
Well, I think legacy publishers they spend a lot of time kind of like protecting their past business models versus, embracing innovation and looking forward. So I would like to see legacy publishers, really just kind of look forward and embrace innovation more.
We're almost out of time here, Trip. Anything else you want to talk about? Any other topics you want to cover?
I think that was pretty thorough. I'd just say we're we're working hard to solve this problem of copyright and AI, and not through the legal path. We're doing it through building a marketplace and getting everybody to agree to terms. And we're making great progress. And just thanks for having me on. It's been great to be on the show. And maybe I come back down the road sometime and give an update on our progress.
Absolutely, would love that. And thanks for having you on. By the way, I'm a small investor in Tripp's company, so I'm very excited to see what you guys do. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Founders in Arms podcast. Next week, we'll have another show. Please subscribe on Apple, Spotify, all the regular podcast channels, and leave us a review. And we'll see you next week.